The earliest form of Chinese characters appeared in the Shang dynasty, with examples dating back to around 1200 BC. These characters were mostly pictographs that blur the lines between picture and writing. Scholars called them oracle bone inscriptions, or 甲骨文in Chinese, because they were carved onto tortoise shells and animal bones and used in divination. They would have been heated in a fire until the bones cracked, and depending on where the crack happened, the fortune tellers would form an interpretation on what was to come. Yet, despite how old they are, there are many oracle bone inscriptions that show direct ties to modern Chinese characters, which is why they are the earliest form of writing that are still considered Chinese characters. There are still so many fascinating things about oracle bone inscriptions, but first, I want to introduce you to the next 6 stages in the evolution of Chinese characters. Directly after oracle bone inscriptions came a form called bronze script, or 金文. The name comes from the bronze cauldrons and pots that they were carved or casted on after the Bronze Age in China. Bronze script actually encompasses 4 different major types of script and many regional variations, with a possible date range as wide as 1300 BC to 200 AD. But most of what people recognize as bronze script are from the Zhou dynasty, between around 1000 BC to 200 BC. Stylistically, bronze script is thicker than oracle bone inscriptions due to the process of casting into metal. They were also a bit more structured and less picturesque. The development of pictographic characters basically came to a halt during this era, as new ideographs and semantic phonetic characters began to dominate. Check out my video on the construction of Chinese characters to learn more. During the Zhou dynasty, as early as 800 to 700 BC, another style of Chinese characters began appearing, called the seal script, 篆书, which were symmetrical and circular with more uniform strokes. This category is further subdivided into large seal script, 大篆, and the later small seal script, 小篆. The name comes from the fact that they were used in official seals even after other scripts rose to prominence. In the year 221 BC, a powerful and ruthless leader had united China under his rule. His name was Qin Shi Huang. Proclaiming himself the first emperor of China, Qin Shi Huang took extreme measures to cement his control over the Middle Kingdom. This included building the largest man-made wall in the history of the world, eradicating the feudal system to disperse local powers, banning the thoughts of great Chinese philosophers, including Confucius, ordering the first mass book burning in recorded history, standardizing all weights, currencies, and measurements, and finally, initiating the first language reform and simplification of Chinese characters. Up until now, Chinese writing had developed organically, with many regional variations and time overlaps between the different styles of Chinese characters. But Qin Shi Huang changed all that when he ordered a standardization of the writing system on a scale previously unheard of. All variations of characters and radicals were consolidated into one standard form. Overly complex characters were simplified. There was a focus on symmetry. This collection of reformed characters became known as the small seal script and ensured that writing would be uniform across his entire empire. This didn't mean variant characters were completely eradicated, but they would never again be as prolific as they once were. The rules and orders set forth by the small seal script would usher in the modern era for Chinese writing. And just as Chinese writing has evolved over the years, so has the modern world. An increasing number of threats are presenting themselves online, but a good VPN like Surfshark VPN can help protect you. I've been using Surfshark whenever I connect to a public Wi-Fi, like when I'm working on YouTube at a local library. A VPN is basically like a portal that allows you to securely access the internet through a different location, so hackers can't steal your information. And as a plus, this also means that you can access content that's blocked in your region by routing your connection through a different country. And unlike the so-called free VPNs on the market, Surfshark never collects your personal data. So here's your chance to get an exclusive discount on Surfshark VPN plus 3 extra months free with my code ABChinese, or by checking out the link down below. Oh, and did I mention that that's for an unlimited number of devices? So you can get Surfshark VPN for your entire family for as little as $2 a month using my code ABChinese. Check it out today with the link down below. The next evolution of Chinese characters would quickly come in the form of 隶书, clerical script. As the first of the modern Chinese characters, Clerical Script became popular in the Han Dynasty and can still be seen to this day. It originated in the Qin Dynasty as a form of handwriting and eventually became its own style. You see, the problem with small seal script and its obsession with circles and symmetry is that it wasn't very intuitive to write. So Clerical Script may have evolved from ordinary people who couldn't be bothered to write properly. Thus, some people consider Clerical Script a form of simplification, since all of the changes focused on ease of writing. You'll notice the overall shape of Clerical Script is a lot more square, just like modern Chinese characters. The next two styles of Chinese characters were also born out of a need to write fast, and the first is grass script, 草书, which was developed in the Han Dynasty and based off of Clerical Script. The term grass script is actually kind of a bad translation since the Chinese word for sloppy and grass share the same character. But it sounds cool, so I'm gonna use it anyways. Some people consider this cursive script, but it's probably worse than what you'd imagine. In fact, this writing is so reduced that most native Chinese speakers can't read it at all without being trained in it. The second is running script, 行书. And this was developed slightly later in the Han Dynasty and based on a new type of writing called regular script, which we'll talk about in a second. Running script is also considered semi-cursive writing, although in my opinion, it's closer to what I'd imagine cursive writing looked like. In this character, Ya, you can see how the individual strokes get connected into a few continuous strokes. Both of these styles are continuously practiced in calligraphy until the present day. And another cool thing about these cursive styles is that a lot of simplified Chinese characters were actually inspired by these forms. If you want to learn more about how Chinese characters became simplified, I made a video on that too. Finally, we reach the modern form of Chinese characters with regular script, 楷书. Surprisingly, this form also began in the Han Dynasty, around 200 AD, but would not reach full maturity until the 7th century. In addition to being easy to write, regular script also focused on being easier to read. Compared to the clerical script it replaced, regular script had more variations in the weight of the strokes. In other words, the strokes got really thick and also really thin. It is also taller than the slightly flat-looking clerical characters. All in all, regular script has enjoyed a reign of at least 1,500 years. Considering how quickly languages can change, that's an insanely long time. But what if there's another, even more impressive stage in the evolution of Chinese characters? And I'm not talking about the future, I'm talking about the past. Oracle bone inscriptions are considered the oldest Chinese characters, but there is still so much we don't know. They were only discovered in 1899, and the story goes that a man named Wang Yirong was sick one day, and his servant brought him a Chinese medicine that uses animal bones. When he inspected them, Wang Yirong noticed some weird symbols scratched on the bones, and as a hobbyist on calligraphy and geology, he realized that the symbols may be some form of writing, so he went to the shop and bought all of the bones with symbols on them to investigate. And it turns out he was indeed correct, and had just uncovered Chinese writing even older than bronze script. Imagine almost eating historical artifacts though. To date, we have uncovered some 4,000 unique oracle bone characters, but yet we only know the meaning to around 1,600 of them. So here's your chance to shine. The National Museum of Chinese Writing in Anyang has offered 100,000 RMB to anyone who can decipher just one of these undeciphered oracle bone characters. And if I'm mathing correctly, that's a total prize pool of 35 million US dollars. Good luck, everyone. And despite how old they already are, scholars have noted that something may have come even before them. The reasoning is simple. Oracle bone inscriptions are a complete writing system, with characters in various parts of speech. It's simply too advanced of a writing system to be the first. And the artifacts we have today are only written on turtle shells and animal bones because those are the only things that can survive for 3,000 plus years. It's possible that these characters were written on other mediums as well, like bamboo strips, but those examples would all be long gone. A validation of sorts came in 1987 when 14 artifacts were unearthed in Jiahu archaeological site in Henan province. Etched on them were 17 symbols that were dated to around 6,000 BC. With these symbols, we can see remarkable resemblance to several oracle bone characters, especially the I character. But with such a long time gap and not enough examples, many people doubt that this was a true writing system. Like the study of evolution in science, it's impossible to know where Chinese characters will go in the future, and even more impossible to pinpoint exactly where it began. There is a legend that the Yellow Emperor who founded China had a wise advisor by the name of Cangjie, who had 4 eyes. When tasked to create a system to record information, he observed the world around him and formed the first Chinese characters by drawing the shapes of the natural world. When he completed his creation, the gods mourned and demons cried because they knew it would make humans more cunning. And more cunning it did. The ancient Chinese civilization was one of the great ancient civilizations, bringing many scientific advancements and cultural influences to the world. Paper, gunpowder, printing, the compass, silk, tea, Confucianism, Kung Fu, and the lunar calendar were all aided by an advanced writing system. Even though I've bashed this very writing system in the past for its inefficiencies in the modern world, there's no denying that Chinese writing itself is one of the great inventions of ancient China, and for that, it deserves to be celebrated.